A very, very good evening. A warm, well, actually, no, not at all. A freezing welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, where my usually cool cellar is decidedly chilly this evening as winter sweeps across Johannesburg and I believe Cape Town as well, where some much needed rain has arrived, not just for our farmers, but also for a rather nasty fire that was threatening to get a little out of control up in Somerset West. We'll look at that in a moment. But temperature and weather notwithstanding, welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, presented by Pick n Pay. Welcome to a big week for South Africa. Now, there's pretty much a wine day every single week. There is something. There is Cinsault Day, and there's Bulgarian Chardonnay Day, and there's North American Cabernet. So there's a day for everything. But this week is a really important day because it's a day that speaks to, I think, our flagship grape, with apologies to the Pinotage army. And it's certainly not putting Pinotage down. It's merely speaking to where Chenin Blanc has got to, especially over the last few years. And this week on Friday is Chenin Blanc Day, and we'll be celebrating it with some Chenin on Thursday evening. And I'll let you know who'll be joining me on that show at the end of this evening's broadcast. So have your Chenin Blanc ready for later on in the week. But for tonight, well, tonight is a show full of excitement. I was supposed to be down at the Delheim wine estate in Stellenbosch a little earlier on this year. And then, as many of you will know from following either this or the Dan Nichols show, I'm currently on crutches and in a moon boot, having snapped my Achilles tendon. And what that meant was I had to very, very sadly pull out of my trip down to Delheim, where I was going to help them pick some grapes and help with the noble late harvest. I was genuinely excited about doing this and very, very sorry not to be able to do so. But I said to the guys at Delheim, look, is there anything I can do to possibly make up for this? And they said, well, actually, we've got some pretty cool stuff happening in June. Maybe we could do something then. And do they have cool stuff happening? There is a new winemaker, although she's not new to the estate. There's a new cellarmaster. He's not new to the estate. And there's a collaboration on a very special wine with a German with a magnificent beard. Even Adi Badenhorst would be envious of. And he knows a little bit about Delheim as well. There's a bit of nostalgia to this evening's show, and all of that is to come very, very shortly. Before we jump into this evening's show and a celebration of good times at Delheim, let's have a quick look at some wine news from the last few days. Well, the Trophy Wine Show, brought to you by Investec, is underway in terms of judging down in Cape Town. Michael Friedjohn and his team of judges, I'd name them, except it'd take me about an hour because he has got a formidable crew running rule over the wines submitted for this year's competition. It is a big competition. It is a prestigious competition. And under the guidance of Mr. Friedjohn, it is one that carries a huge amount of weight. New sponsor in Investec, and lovely to see Investec coming on board with the new look to the Trophy Wine Show. And we'll be doing some stuff with Michael on the show a little later on in the year as we celebrate a new direction for an old hand in the art of celebrating South African wine. And that is Danielle Leroux. Now, Danielle, the last time she was on the show, would have been part of the same family for which you see wine on the table in front of her, but not quite the same brand. She was over at Guardian Peak, but has now taken a step up into the Ruston Vrede cellar, the home of some of South Africa's most established red wine. And she is the new winemaker John Engelbrecht has appointed. So big move for a very gifted winemaker and one who will slot right in. She'll know the terroir intimately from her time just up the road at Guardian Peak, and now gets to make some wine that features on wine lists all over the world. So good luck to Danielle, and we look forward to having her in her new role on the show soon. And then just a shout out to our firefighters in the Western Cape. There were some very nasty fires down Somerset West, where I think they kicked off just above Lawrenceford over the weekend, and it looked very dangerous. That line up above Stellenbosch, heading over into the Helderberg, things looked dangerous. There were homes that were at risk, but thankfully the firefighters came through. The weather, now with the rain, I think has put paid to the last of the risk, and that fire I hope it's not under control. Look, there's loads of Fynbos there. It was Fynbos that was due for a controlled burn, so there's certainly material ready to go, and the weather for this time of year has been hot and dry and windy, which does not help. But if the rain comes now, not only will it help the farmers, who certainly could do with some, but will also just ease off on the threat of fires in the winelands. Thank you to the winemakers and everybody in the winelands who always come together so well this particular time. And then just to show you something quickly, this arrived in the mail. Well, not really, nothing arrives in the mail anymore, does it? But it did get couriered up to me. There we go, Constantia Glen, A Timeless Vision. And this looks at the history of the estate in Constantia. It's got some beautiful, beautiful photographs. It showcases an estate that's got reason to celebrate at the moment, because Constantia Glen picking up 97 points and a platinum award for their Sauvignon Blanc at the Decanter Awards we were chatting about last week with Ken Forrester on the show. So well done, Constantia Glen. Thank you. And I'll see you on Sunday. I'm going to be dropping in at Constantia Glen for lunch on Sunday. Looking forward to that. I have been looking forward for some time now to this evening's show and the chance to talk to two great winemakers from South Africa and another one from Germany, but we can almost claim him as his own because he's got some South African heritage there or thereabouts. So a very, very warm welcome to our Delheim team. Warm welcome, guys, as well as our winemaker from Hammel Kie. So Christoph Hammel joins us all the way from Germany, along with Roelof and Nongcebo from Delheim. And guys, welcome to you. Lovely to see you. And we're going to talk about that beard and that Springbok jersey in a moment, Christoph, because the combination is magnificent. But before we do that, I need to say some congratulations. And Nongcebo Langa, let's start with you. Winemaker at Delheim. I can see the size of that smile. Congratulations. Wonderful. It looks like you're still floating at the news.
It still hasn't sunk in yet, so I'm waiting for the moment to actually be like, okay, it has come into realization. I know it's out there and everything, so but I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to the years and working with the team and my Yoda here.
Let's talk a bit about that wine journey, Nongcebo, because if we go back to a young Nongcebo, you didn't really grow up in a family with a great wine culture. Wine wasn't really a big part of your life. How did wine find its way onto your horizon and then start speaking to you and start saying, hey, Nongcebo, let's spend a bit more time together. Let's see what we can do together.
So like it begins the story a long time ago. So I had a bursary in high school from a Department of Agriculture, and then they came like, oh, we have a list of careers post high school that are scarce skills in agri-sciences. And then they brought in professionals to give talks and speak to us about, they brought in animal science, there was food science people, and then there was wine people. I think the most exciting thing about the wine was that the winemaker mentioned traveling, and then there was a little bit of drinking in between. So I was like, that's that career for me. But that was quite exciting. There was something new also. It was a challenge, I think, and then that's how I was drawn in. And the more you learn, the more you interact with people, then suppose the love grows for the wine and the industry.
I get a real sense that you found your spiritual home at Delheim and very much found your feet as a winemaker, but there have been a few stops along the way. What are the big moments been for you in this wine journey? And in particular, tell me a little bit about adventures in California.
Ooh, that was fun and exciting. It was something new, my first time outside of the country. There was a learning experience, a very nice cultural exchange as well. Not only did I interact with a lot of Americans, I met a lot of other individuals from other countries, especially like Argentina. So it was quite exciting to see that aspect of winemaking. And then so they were not lying when they say there's a lot of traveling with winemaking. And then I'm looking forward to the next steps as well, the next few countries for travel. So it was quite fun, and you get to see how similar actually the sort of culture in terms of wine like around the world, the people that appreciate wine and they love it. It's different, but same and similar at the same time.
Roelof, you've got beside you somebody who's obviously got a very natural feel for winemaking. Do you remember the very first time that your paths crossed?
Well, if I could jump in there, I think it was very, very different, because normally by December I've got all my interns lined up, but because I joined Delheim late in the year, I didn't really have anyone lined up for the following vintage. And I think it was just a happy coincidence that her email ended up, or the CV ended up on my laptop. Gave her a call and asked her what she's doing, and she said nothing. At the moment, I'm doing absolutely nothing. And I was like, okay, no, you're not. Get on the plane. You're going to be in Cape Town tomorrow. Lo and behold, that next day she got on a plane, came to Stellenbosch, and the rest is, as I say, is history. But just like any other interns, you never really have high hopes for them. But after the vintage, I was just, you know what, I have to sign you up full time.
So an impact was clearly made, an impression made very early on. Break that down just a little, Roelof. What was it about Nongcebo and her winemaking, her approach, the person she is, that said to you had somebody special as your newest lieutenant? All right, I think we've just frozen up.
I'm back. And it was a one-liner. We were sitting in my office, and like before harvest, I always asked the interns, what do you want to get out of the harvest? What exactly do you want to? Because an internship is pretty much what you want to get out of it. And she looked at me. She said, "Well, I want to be sitting in your seat." I was just like, okay. That's the first time someone's ever said that to me, but okay, cool. And I mean, from there you could see there was a genuine interest. It was just, it wasn't that just she couldn't learn anything, but she wanted to learn, and she would come to me with questions. And if I do something, she doesn't just accept that's something that I do, and that's the rule of the law. She would question me, and she would ask me, why are we doing this? Don't you think we can rather do this? She's got a master's degree in enology. It's not something that you can take for granted. She's more cleverer than me. So you've got to understand these sorts of things and utilize your interns, or now as a winemaker. So no, it's been an absolute journey and a blessing, and I'm just happy that she happened to knock on my door.
Well, she was very honest and upfront with you. She told you she was coming for your job, and she's now got it as winemaker. But you're not without a job yourself, because there is the new role as cellarmaster. Terms which can be a little confusing for those people who don't know the wine industry so well. Explain what the difference is between them and how your job now changes going forward.
Yeah, so basically as a cellarmaster, I would oversee the bigger picture. I would look more into, what can we do to make this better? What sort of trends are happening in the world stylistically? How can we improve the cellar with new technology? I think with the 4 years that I've worked with Noni, I think not just myself, we've now got an idea of what Delheim can do. It was something that we did together from the beginning. We've actually drawn a path for where we want to go, because Delheim is now, we're in this projection. We've started a new idea of what we want to be in 10 years, 15, 20 years time. So this is a vision that we've built together. So now making her winemaker really gives me the opportunity to step just that little bit back and not be focused on the day-to-day decisions. She knows wine, she understands wine, she knows faulty wine, she knows how to pick up certain things, she knows what we want to do with the wines. I don't have to worry about that anymore. She can do it, and she must put a stamp on her wines. And then, I can, like I said, step back, see the bigger picture, really make sure that what we're trying to do, we can take it from 10 to 11 or 12, if that makes sense.
It does indeed, and it sounds like what was already an exciting platform is even more so, and yet there is still more to come, which takes us to our third guest. And if you saw that very fleetingly and thought, they've got Ardie Badenhorst on the show. No, it's not Ardie. It's the European equivalent. Christoph, warm welcome to the show. Lovely to have you with us. Before we go back in time to a very cool connection you have with Delheim, tell us about where you are today and what your current wine story is.
Yeah, hello. Thank you that I'm part of the show today. My name is Christoph, and I'm running a winery, very traditional since year 1723, since 300 years. A very traditional family wine estate in the Rhine Valley. And I have studied enology in Vienna, and because of that, in 1985, 37 years ago, I had to do a practical training during a harvest, and I had the chance to go to South Africa. For me, at that time, I turned 21. I was 20 when I arrived in South Africa. A big adventure, unbelievable. I had the chance to work at Delheim for one harvest, and that opened up a door in my head and in my heart, because South Africa is a big love. And yeah, I think the nicest country in the world. Are we honest?
So a really strong link with Delheim, which is fantastic. Give us a little bit more detail about that trip, what it was like arriving pretty early on in your wine career in South Africa and discovering the magic of Stellenbosch.
Yeah, okay. I mean, at that time, 37 years ago, it was a completely different story. We shouldn't forget it was still Frederick de Klerk, P.W. Botha was president at that time. It was political, on the political side, completely different. It was also, but on the other side, it was for me so fascinating, because at that time, South Africa was, as also today, but especially in these days, 30, 40 years ago, South Africa was extremely high in the technical standards. And we shouldn't forget one thing. South Africa is always called in the same way like Napa Valley, so America, Australia, New Zealand, as a new world wine country. But South Africa isn't a new world wine country. South Africa is an extreme traditional wine country. 1655, that is a word. Lots of generations worked and in the wine industry or built that up. South Africa is in one rank with a very, very traditional wine growing regions in the world. The standard is extremely high when you go to Stellenbosch University, when you look what they do there in research and all this kind of thing. So everybody who's educated in this country, in winemaking, in viticulture, has an extreme high standard. And that's why South Africa is one of the hot spots in the world to go, to be educated, to make wine, or just to enjoy as a tourist. So I had, lucky-wise, the chance now, at these days when I've been there, to be both enjoyer, and I had the chance to work in the cellar a little bit with this wonderful team. You saw the two people now, and we became friends right in the first second and spoke the same language. Fantastic. But more is not possible.
The energy is palpable, and it feeds into the wine that Christoph has been talking about. So let's frame that for you. Here's a quick look from the vineyards themselves at exactly what Christoph and the Delheim team are getting up to.
Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, what a wonderful morning here on Delheim Wine Estate. What do you see? You see here nothing, no grapes. Of course there are grapes, because they are hidden here in between. When you come here to me, you can see here, they're hiding here between the leaves, very fine. And that's why they are protected. Protected in the shadow from the hot sun. My name is Christoph Hammel. I have the honor and the pleasure at the same time to make some wine here on Delheim. I'm from Germany. I'm a German winemaker with an old traditional wine estate there, and I worked 35 years ago on Delheim as a practical trainee in 1985 under General Sperling. I worked and Kevin Arnold, wonderful time, and now it was so nice that the Sperling family invited me to come quickly over and make a Riesling. I'm from Germany, so what else should we make? And the thing is that the Rhine Riesling, the Weiße Riesling, has here a perfect home on Delheim. Why? When you look up here, you see the mountains, you see here the forest, yeah? And early in the morning, the sun needs a lot of time to come up over the mountains. It's a north-faced place here. And that's why it's cool. Riesling is a cool climate grape varietal. And at the same time, look at me. I'm 1.77 meters high. Look how high these leaves are. It's 2 meters, above 2 meters here. Yeah. So we got a lot of leaves. And the leaves are, at first, the power plant of the grapes. Why? They're not living alone from water. Of course not. They also need the sun. They need the sun and the leaves, yeah, that our photosynthesis is bringing all the sugar into our grapes, what we need to make a nice wine, that they become ripe. We have here 2 blocks, and our project was so exciting because we mixed these 2 blocks. So we harvested 20% from here when they were not rotten, and we combined that with 80% of the ripe block up there.
So that is the Riesling project down in the Cape. It's at first a slightly unlikely collaboration, Christoph, and that Riesling, South Africa, it's not a grape we do a great deal of, and there are so many others we make really well. But the way you describe it and the way you talk about the cool climate required, and of course your own expertise with Riesling, you add all of that together, and all of a sudden it does make a lot of sense.
I think it makes a lot of sense because of one thing. When we go back 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, Rhine Riesling, yeah, not South. We also had the, when you remember, and you don't see it often anymore, we had the South African Riesling, yeah, which has acidity and this and that. So, and we had the Rhine Riesling, and the Rhine Riesling was popular at that time. A lot of people drank that, and the style of the Rhine Riesling was a very classical style. Off dry, after 2 years, the wine got this petrol tone. Yeah, they thought this is German, this is classical, so a Riesling must be like this. And then over all the last 20, 30 years, now the 10 years, and so on, yeah, the Rhine Riesling went out of range. The people, it was not so sexy anymore. Yeah. We mustn't forget, also Chenin Blanc had a time where the people said, oh, it's a mass production grape, and it's just Chenin. Yeah, it's the Klein Steen wine and all that. And now he's a superstar. So because it's authentic. So things which go out of range can come back. They can have a comeback. And Rhine Riesling was very popular. Then it came out of the hit parade, you know. And now we want to try to bring it back, but in a modern way. Not in that way, what it used to be 30 years, 40 years. We want to write the history of this grape variety in South Africa new. So this will be much more modern, much more fruit-driven, very interesting flavors. Yeah. We combine juiciness with minerality and so on. No petrol afterwards. Yeah. So this is a new kind of stuff. It's that kind of wine, which also is in Germany, the mother country of Riesling, very, very popular since the last 20 years. And now, and will be further on. And we will put this grape variety on that track in South Africa. And as I said, it's not a new grape varietal. It's a classical grape varietal since a lot of time. But now we want to give it a new close, a new look, a new shine, a new taste, a new reputation, and let's see if we make it. But we are very excited, I tell you, and I tell you, it will work 100%.
There is a Riesling revolution afoot. A different Nongcebo Langa is watching the show. Of course, Christoph is the Riesling guy. My favorite experience of Germany was the Riesling and the asparagus in the spring. What an exciting lineup of guests. We also have Kelly Sick. Love this guy, says Kelly. You're building up a bit of a fan base here this evening, Christoph. The Winership team in London, hi from London, are watching as well. Good to see you.
London.
Welcome. And then Nongcebo, what a fabulous story. I love that one-liner. Go girl. You make us so proud, both of you. Well, let's go back down to Delheim. Tell me about the first time that you guys came across this bearded German who once upon a time had worked at Delheim and decided he wanted to come and make Riesling in South Africa. What was that first encounter like?
Oh, well, you just got a glimpse of what it's like. No, he's a good storyteller, lots of enthusiasm and energy, and it doesn't take long for him to fire you up and make you excited about this project. It's something that I've wanted to do for a while now, and I'm very excited that we got Christoph on board to help us and guide us through this. Because, I mean, like you said, he's German, he knows Riesling. There's not much I can tell him about Riesling. But it's an exciting adventure, and I think there's going to be plenty more of these sorts of what would we call it, get-togethers, where he can just express himself in a way that most of us just love and find very entertaining.
Nongcebo, it's quite a start to your tenure as winemaker, right? Don't just make everything we're already making, but we're going to give you a well-known and well-established German to make some Riesling in South Africa. Is that a challenge that really excites you, or is it just a few nerves around it?
I mean, it's quite exciting, and to look at the history of the farm, like including Christoph and all the other people that have come before. I look at the task and I'm like, I have a lot of great shoes to fill, and then to have this project going as well, it's just been exciting. And I mean, I'm always open to learning something new, and to have Christoph here was exciting, and he brought a lot of new ideas. So that was quite fun to work with, and yeah, it was just a fun project, and it's still ongoing. So yeah, we'll see how that works out, but we're excited about the wine.
Tell me about that learning, Nongcebo, because the collaboration you have here gives you the opportunity to work side by side with someone from a very different part of the wine world with lots and lots of experience. How much do you feel you've learned from Christoph, and what have some of those lessons been?
So quite a bit, and like one of the things is just like bringing in I don't want to say bring in product, but it's new technology. So it was quite exciting, the stuff that they do on that side and exchange of knowledge of what we do on this side. So that was quite exciting to collaborate on that and get new ideas as well for us. Hopefully he got ideas from us as well for his winery. So there's always great opportunities to learn, and he's been in the industry for quite a while as well, and navigating through the wine business, and like all those lessons have just been great to get from him as well. So it's just overall been a great experience, and I'm looking forward to actually learning a lot more from people like Christoph as well. So it's just not limited to one space or one idea, and then you get a whole lot of ideas, and then you can do a lot more.
What about you, Roelof? You've been around the block a little more than your colleague in terms of making wine, but a wine journey never ends, and we keep learning right until the very end. What has Christoph brought to your understanding of wine and the venture that you've had together?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you mentioned it, the style of Riesling's changed. Those that drink Riesling in this country actually go look for it and find it, because there isn't a lot of it. There's maybe 5 producers that I can think of top of my head, and they don't necessarily make the style that's modern now in Germany. So it was quite a refreshing approach to hear that, hey, you want to do this, in your mind you've got a different idea of Riesling, and the more you talk and you communicate and you share ideas, the more you realize, hey, you know what, we might be onto something. I think year 1 is going to be an exciting experiment, and I think it will only actually get better from here, because now we're learning what the vineyard does with the way that we approach it. So you nailed it, Dan. You never stop learning. To say that this Riesling that we're making this year is the be all and end all, I don't know. I think it can get even better, and if you've got a good team and you've got the right approach and the right idea, and we're on the same page, to get 2 South Africans and a German on the same page, that's a miracle in itself. I think we can only do well.
The style change, Christoph, that you speak of, it's going to stuff a whole pile of WSET students in their early stages of their learning, because Riesling was always the easy one. We picked up the petrol, we knew what it was, we could write it down and move on to the next category. You've taken that away from us, but clearly for good reason. Before we look at this South African project, why has there been this evolution of style, and what do you feel has shaped it?
At the end of the day, we speak about an experiment and this, or a revolution, and there is truth in everything, might be a little bit. But at the end of the day, The most important thing is that people like the wine, that people have a good time with it, and not only 2 or 3 in a small niche. Yeah, that a lot of people say, "Wow, lekker! Open up the next bottle, yeah." So, and that's why we make wine. That we stand up in the morning, and the society is changing. And when the society is changing, then also the taste is changing. I mean, who thought 40 years ago that we eat raw fish with a little bit of cold rice? Now sushi is very hip, but 40, 50 years ago, the people would have said, "Oh my God, raw fish with cold rice, Jesus Christ, what's that?" So everything is changing. There is an evolution all the time because we are changing as well. And we make wine now for the people in these times. And it's still the same old Riesling grape varietal. It's hundreds of years old. The recipe didn't change. We take fresh grapes, we press them, we make juice, we ferment it, bam, it's wine. But we treat it different. We harvest at different temperatures. We harvest it, for example, here early in the morning. I wanted to harvest at 4 o'clock. They said, "Oh my God, he's German. What the hell?" 6 o'clock is it also right? Okay. Because why? It's cold in the morning. I want to get it cold in. When you make yourself a fruit salad, do you store that 5 hours in the warm living room on the table? No, you put it in the fridge. It's the same here. Yeah, I want to protect the aroma. I want to early in the morning when it's cold, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, latest, the grapes in. I want to leave it long on the skins, that the aroma comes out of the skins, yeah, and all these kind of things. So we just change a little bit the style of making, but the spirit, the heart stays, yeah. And one thing is also important because you ask what does they felt when I came to the cellar. I must say it was so fantastic. I've been to Delheim back after 37 years. Okay, it's a complete new team, but it was a homecoming. It was in 1 minute we've been a team, and we are one family. So I'm not the Riesling god to tell them everything is new and they have just to listen. No. We are one team, and we had all ideas. It was like tennis playing. I had an idea, bam, to the next, and then Roelof had an idea, Nonny had an idea. We said, "Oh, this is interesting. Okay, now it's better we do it like this and that." Fantastic. So it's a child with a lot of parents. It's very nice.
That is such a lovely, lovely way of putting it. And it is a set of comments being enjoyed by a number of people. Roxanne Waldeck, who we know from not so long ago on the show with our Sommelier Association. So excited to see and taste the magic that Nongcebo creates. She's most certainly something special. You go Queen. And Roxanne follows up there with, "And a great team." Well, it certainly is. And then Jonathan Hiles is watching at the moment. A big shout out to Nongcebo from the TBOW 2022 alumni. So a lot of supporters who I'm sure are really excited about this wine. Now, we've spoken about the project, but what does it actually taste like? Well, the Delheim team, Danny and co, sent up a couple of samples. Nongcebo, I've got the first one here. This is the barrel sample. I've got to be honest, I think you're labeling this, maybe for the final label, go for something a little more detailed, but we'll take this one for now. Tell me a little bit about this barrel sample 2022, what you make of this so far, this barrel sample of the Riesling Nongcebo on its journey thus far.
I think that label is perfect, actually. So that wine now you're tasting from our barrique as tono, as Christoph loves to put it. So I mean, it's expressing very nice fruits, like your orange. I got my colors mixed. Your orange fruits, like your peaches, and then you get nice, like we call it an Earl Grey aroma character coming through in that Riesling. So a nice acidity as well to balance that out. And the acidity comes off naturally from the sides, and it's just beautiful. And with the interventions we also had while we were picking, with Christoph's inputs and guidelines, so it was quite exciting to see it develop in the barrel as well. So each component will play a different part. So yeah, this is quite one of the exciting ones as well to see. And it was going through malolactic as well, so you get a bit of that smoothness coming through. So yeah, no, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting.
Roelof, that smoothness is probably the adjective I pick up most quickly, because you sent these up. They've still got the hand-scrawled labels. This one is the egg sample, and the wine itself is a little bit cloudy. It's the kind of one you look at. It's only been out a couple of months. It's surely far too young. You drink it almost with a bit of hesitancy, and you think, oh, you know, what's this going to be like? And then you think, geez, actually, for something that is so immediate in terms of its creation, it's in a really lovely space as well. What's your take been on where this Riesling is so far, and then where you think it might go?
It's still early days. I mean, its life cycle, to be honest, it's only finished fermenting 1 or 2 weeks ago, because we did a method called stabulation, where we got the juice in, put it down to about 2 degrees Celsius, for 6 weeks. So basically, in a weird way, the juice develops. So you're fermenting something completely different to what you would crushing grapes, putting in a tank, fermenting it. So there's development or maturation within the juice before the onset of fermentation. And then, I mean, not only that, we used a very selective yeast strain that's native from New Zealand. That's pretty much almost a pre-fermentation fermentation that also just fires up the aromatics and the precursors for the yeast that eventually takes over. And I'm pretty sure Christoph would want to talk more about the yeast, because that's something I know is very dear to his heart. But it's still very early days. It's just literally got its first little bit of sulfur. It's in the barrel. The reason why the eggs are cloudy is because the whole idea behind being in concrete eggs is that it doesn't really settle, or it takes longer to settle, and over time it does stir up again. So that wine will be cloudy. I think when I taste the wine, it's more like I feel like there's potential for so much more development. It isn't what the end result. There's still a lot of. I mean, it's only going to be released end of this year, next year, Easter. So the development is still ongoing. It's still in its infancy phase. So no, it's very exciting, and I'm glad the samples at least show well, because they never travel well. So yeah, I'm happy it shows well.
Well, these have travelled as well as a smiling German with a big beard. Speaking of which, let's head back to him. Give us a bit more of on the technical side, and how we've got the egg, we've got the barrel, how this wine is going to come together, Christoph, and what ultimately you're hoping you get when this wine does see the light of day for customers next year.
Okay, I try to put it in that words. What you have now in your glass, these 2 samples, all right? This is a baby. It's a baby crawling on the living room floor. But when we bottle it, it's a 35-year-old star architect in New York City building skyscrapers. So it's what you taste now is not what's in the bottle afterwards. It's just a moment photograph, yeah? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and that makes it so nice, when you are a painter, you have 5, 6, 8 different colors: red, green, blue, and so on. And it's totally different. Red is not blue, and it's not. But then you paint with these colors, and then you have a harmony on the picture. Yeah, and this is the same what we do here. We have fermented the juice in oak. And especially one is acacia. This is also fantastic. It's brand new from France. Very cool, especially for grape varietals like Sauvignon Blanc or like Riesling, because the wood is not so heavy. It keeps the freshness. That's why they call it fraîcheur. So we put it in a fraîcheur oak, acacia, tonneau, and the concrete eggs are completely different, because in the oak, for example, we did a malolactic fermentation. It's smooth, it's round, it's butterscotch. If we would bottle it alone, it would be too mighty, too fat, too much butterscotch. But then, without the malolactic, it's 75% or 70% in the eggs. Yeah. So in the concrete eggs. We put it together, then we have that harmony, what I told you with the colors. Yeah, we have that one part with butterscotch, round, more fat, very, very deep yellow. It will become like that. Yeah, more orange. Yeah, and the other one is a bright yellow and with acidity driven. Yeah, very refreshing. Bam. And then we put it together, and then we have perfect harmony. We have a refreshing acidity. We will have a nice mineralic, and then we have a nice spiciness and a nice orange color fruit built in to soften it up at the end. So you are waking up when you put it in the mouth, and it's mouth-watering, and you say, hey, where is my seafood platter? Yeah, and then you swallow it down and say, oh, fantastic. Yeah, you want more and more and more. So this is the way we want to, let's see if it's happening at the end of the day. It's still a natural product, yeah? But this is how we put it on the way. Cool climate winemaking, protecting the fruit, going different ways, wood and not wood. You can take stainless steel. We have the wonderful thing that we have these eggs, very, very cool in the moment. Yeah, these concrete eggs, and then we combine it. This will be Eastern next year. So now the maturation starts. We steer up the lees. We make bâtonnage, what the French people say, yeah, to build in all these monoproteins, all this. It gives you more and more and more and more, but not that it gets stuck here. You understand? So it will be super at the end. I'm 100% sure. And as I said it's not a one-way street. It's not just like this. It's a combining of different styles to have a harmony in the end and an individual phase of this wine. You'll open it up and you say, geez, that is the Delheim Riesling. Wow, yeah, I can taste it out of 100,000. And this is what we want to hit. Let's see if we make it. But we are in a very good mood, I'll tell you something. And at the end of the day, I think the most important is the friendship between the team. The wine is one thing, but we met each other. We never met each other before. We had a nice time during harvest. We will do it again. Oops, we will do it again next year, 100%. And this is wonderful. It makes our life nice.
You have got a very long queue of people now waiting for that wine to come out next Easter, talking it through perfectly there, Christoph. And you've spoken almost about what I wanted to ask you next in terms of this Riesling. I think we've got to a stage very happily in South Africa where we no longer feel compelled to look at the wines of the Hammel in the context of Burgundy or the big blends of Stellenbosch in the context of Bordeaux. We're increasingly comfortable in wine on our own terms. And I really do get the feeling from you and from the team on the ground in Stellenbosch that this wasn't an attempt to try and recreate a German Riesling, but rather take inspiration from the grape to produce something that is distinctly South African.
Absolutely. I don't want to copy something. The people on Delheim don't want to copy something. As I told you, 50 years ago, Riesling was absolutely normal on the shelf everywhere. A lot of people drank Riesling. We bring it back, but in a new clothes. It's a South African Rhine Riesling. And we have Rhine Riesling very, very successfully in America. We have Rhine Riesling very, very successfully in New Zealand. So everywhere where you are able to make a good Sauvignon Blanc, you will also make a good Riesling. Definitely, yes. And it's up to you, what style do you want to make? If I give 10 chefs the same ingredients and say, make a nice curry, it will taste different. So it's individualized by the winemakers. And we three together, the three musketeers here, the wine musketeers, yeah, we decided to go that way, what I described, yeah, wood and concrete, and this long time, 6 weeks, as in the juice stadium, to cool it down to 2 degrees and steer it up all the time. Hey, that is really a complete different way. As you make, let's say, we make a nice normal one. No. We put a lot of effort in. We are not going the straight way. We go like this and that and that and that. And yeah, that makes it exciting. I'm sure it will be wonderful. Eastern next year. It comes out of the eggs to Eastern. It will be one of a nice Eastern egg then, a liquid Eastern egg.
As good an Easter egg as you could hope for. Roelof, you've got a fairly thunderous endorsement of this wine from Christoph. In terms of where you think it's going to sit, both for Delheim and for South Africa, where beyond, I think, Paul Kluwer, Oak Valley, Catherine Marshall, Sauerwein, Natila Niedlingshoff, there are not too many Rieslings, as you have already said. Is this going to be a quirky little addition that's got a cool story, that's a fun part of what you can experience from Delheim? Or do you think that Riesling, both for you and for South Africa beyond, has got slightly more of a story to tell, that we are going to see Riesling play a bigger role to come?
Well, to be honest with you, I think what Christoph said about the journey was probably the most important thing. And I think if you can create a wine that has a story and a journey attached to it, you've done more than just create a liquid product. Will it revolutionize Riesling? I don't know. Will it bring back Riesling into South Africa? I don't know. But will it be a hell of a lot of fun to make? Yes, it will. That I can tell you. Where is it going to fit in the South African context? I mean, look, there are 5 producers. We don't nail every single category, but I think we don't want it to be just a once-off quirky project and a side hustle type of thing. I think this is a project that we do, as much as it sounds fun and exciting, it is still serious, and we really wanted to achieve something great here. So
all right, we'll get back to our Delheim team in a second. Before we wrap up, Christoph, I must ask you about the other wine that you're making when you're not making Riesling with very cool South Africans. I think you've got a new army of fans based on the show today. If people are looking to come over for a bit of wine tourism in Germany, tell us a bit more about your operation there, the other wine that you're producing, and why we should be coming over to say hello.
Yeah, I mean, Germany is a wonderful place to visit. I mean, it's in the heart of Europe. 40 kilometers away is France, is the Alsace region. I have just 2.5 hours to Reims in Epernay for Champagne. I'm in 3.5, 4 hours in Paris with my car. So it's already worth it to come to Germany, because you're in the middle of Europe. You can go to Austria, wonderful wines there everywhere. So my family is located here in the Rhine Valley, as I told you, very, very classical. So this is round about 100 kilometers in the south of Frankfurt. Near Heidelberg, we are doing wine here, as I told you, very, very traditional, since 300 years. It's family owned since 1723, and in these days we are doing beside the Riesling, which is still the most important grape varietal here, of course. Especially here is Pinot Gris. Pinot Gris is extremely popular in Germany. Pinot Blanc, Chardonnay, and Sauvignon Blanc. Of course, absolutely super sexy on the market here. But our winery is specialized, because I always was in love with it. And that's why God take me to Delheim, I don't know, is rosé. So from 100 hectares, for more than 100 hectares, what we are crushing, more than 30% is rosé. And I'm sure that the rosé market will grow in the next years, still stronger and stronger. And we will see also top rosés for excellent produced. At the time that you say, oh, rosé, yeah, it's just for summer, it's easy drinking on the balcony, it's more for the girls, serious wine drinkers don't drink rosé. These times are over, absolutely over. South Africa is having extremely good conditions for international top rosés, as we have it in Germany also here, especially in Germany, because we are cool climate. And this is, I think, something for the future also here, definitely.
Plus, you get to find a very cool German who likes wearing Springbok jerseys and loves to talk about South Africa. Let's see if we've got the Delheim team back. Nongcebo and Roelof, if you are there, before we say goodbye to you. This Riesling looks terribly exciting, but I know there's far more to just Riesling at the estate. What else is on the horizon? What are you both really excited about over the next year or two at Delheim?
We've done a whole new plan and project to reestablish old vineyards, really I mean, Delheim has always been a Cabernet powerhouse, and that's been a big focus of ours now, especially myself and Noni. We both love Cabernet, so this is very close to our hearts. Another exciting thing that we're looking forward to is Noni's going over to Germany in September and teaching Christoph how to make Chardonnay. I think that will also end up being very exciting. Other than that, you know, we just keep trying. Technology, like I said, I've got the opportunity to step back and really see how can we just take it to the next level, because it doesn't help.
Just having one or two connection issues down in the cellar there with the guys at Delheim. I can tell you there are plenty of fans of our guests. Nsiki Biela, wow, awesome, says Nsiki. And if it's coming from Nsiki, you know that's high praise indeed. A regular guest on Dan Really Likes Wine. Winer Ship Wines in the UK. Come to London and drink it with us in person, they suggest. Well, if you're in London, there is somewhere to go and check out. Dean Totham, very exciting. Very few SA Rieslings available in the UK. Bring it on, says Dean. So he's very happy. And Nick Furness watching over on YouTube. Congrats, Team Delheim. I think everybody's going to be echoing that at the moment. Yeah, I'm not sure if we've got our guys back there down in the Cape, but I know we do have our new best friend from Germany on Dan Really Likes Wine. Christoph, thank you so much for joining us. I really look forward to having you on the show in person when you get down to South Africa. And I think Nongcebo and Roelof, the cutout there is a message from the wine gods that I need to be down to Delheim to make up for missing that trip earlier on in the year. So expect me soon to get an update from you both and get another barrel tasting of the Riesling I am drinking this evening, and drinking very happily because it is in a surprisingly good space already. By next Easter, I think it might be almost as good as Christoph has told us it will be. So there is one to look out for. Guys, thank you so much. Nongcebo and Roelof, good luck with the new space. Christoph, love that jersey. Look forward to having you on the show again soon. And thank you for championing Riesling and giving us such a great story tonight. Much appreciated. So there we go. Christoph Hammel from the Rhine Valley, and apologies there, we just lost the very end of our team from Delheim, but we got the important stuff. Not only have we got two very excited wine people in their new roles, Nongcebo Langa as the new winemaker, Roelof taking over as the cellarmaster, and the jobs that those two roles entail, but alongside of Christoph, adding to the small collection of Riesling we have in South Africa with a really, really cool addition that's going to be a bit different in its style, but I think all the more exciting for that. So thank you for joining us. That leaves me just to ask you to come back again on Thursday, where we preview Friday's Drink Shannon Day, and amongst our guests, we're going to be having a guy called Jono who likes to drink solo. A man behind Han Drinks Solo, drinking a bottle of Shannon. Emile is joining us, Emile Gilbert, and I'm hoping we're going to be able to drag Greg Sherwood in amongst a couple of others, each with a bottle of Shannon of their choice, as we pay tribute to the grape that is doing so much for South Africa at the moment. Big thank you to the team at Delheim for setting that up today and bringing in a very cool German to do very cool South Africans and some very cool Riesling. It's a cool show all round. Have a great evening. Keep drinking South African wine. This is Dan Really Likes Wine, presented by Pick n Pay. We'll see you on Thursday. Goodbye. To join the Pick n Pay Wine Club, simply SMS your smart shopper number to 36775. It's absolutely free, and you'll get for yourself 3 times the smart shopper points on every bottle of wine bought. You'll also get a 20% discount on 10 different wines each month, a 25% discount on a case of wine, and a Magnum, some terrific competitions and invitations to awesome events.